Welcome, listeners, to Thru the Sightglass, a podcast that dives deep into the fascinating world of craft beer and celebrates the incredible individuals who shape its vibrant landscape. Join us on a journey where we explore the nuances of this amazing industry and the remarkable people who contribute to its richness and diversity. And today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Ian and Marcia of Banded Brewing. Thank you for adjusting and making time for us. I'm glad we waited until the coldest week so far of Maine to do so. Thank you for your hospitality.
Of course, yeah.
Thanks
Glad
for
to have
having
you
us.
here.
So he just said your name, but will you both introduce yourself and kind of your role here at Banded, please?
Sure, yeah. My name is Ian McConnell. The founder, brewer, head brewer guy.
Chief
Founded
builder.
Banded Brewing, yeah. Chief DIY, arts and crafts enthusiast.
All the titles, many titles.
It's on my business card, all of it. So I founded Banded Brewing in, when was it? November of 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
we've been at it almost 12 years. I just love beer. Beer took over my life at a certain point, and I saw an opportunity, and I went for it. So
Love
Amazing.
it. We can't wait to get into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no more to tell. That's it.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
just simple.
Podcast over. Got it.
I'm Marcia Felice. I'm actually from the West Coast, from Oregon, so got started in beer there, working for Rogue, and have bounced around the U.S. and internationally, ending up working in beer pretty much everywhere I went. And I've been here,
Incredible.
been in Maine about 2.5 years, but
Okay.
with Banded for just over 2. So
Gotcha.
yeah, and
She
I
kind of
do.
stumbled in here,
I did.
and we were like, we're
Kind
not
of
letting you
forced
go.
my way in.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
I was actually hired to work in the Portland location when we still had it, even
Oh,
though I
okay,
lived like
gotcha.
3 minutes away. So when I got hired there, I was like, I'll be in the brewery someday.
Yeah.
Just you
Nice.
wait. And like shifts were opening up, and I was like, hey, I'm free. And then ended up just down here and now do a lot of things.
Amazing.
I think you have more titles than me.
I probably do.
I love it so much. So you didn't grow up here, but where did you grow up?
I grew up in central Maine, right outside of Bangor, a
Very
little town called Etna.
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
Yep, it's I have a big family. It's I just grew up playing in the woods and
Yeah.
playing with.
That's a
animal
very
skulls
common
and
theme
all
around
kinds of
here so
stuff like
far.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I appreciate my upbringing. My mother was the youngest of 12, and I would always hang out at my grandparents' house. I practically lived there as well as my. I had a little path through the woods to get from my house to their
Oh,
house.
that's
That's
so
amazing.
cool.
And then my uncle's house is on the other side, and my other aunt's house was in between.
Oh,
Cousin- and
nice. So
cousins,
it's like
I'm
a
sure.
family compound almost.
Yeah, so many cousins.
Yeah.
yeah.
Always building probably some cool forts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where do you fall in the lineup of siblings? Oldest, youngest, middle?
I am the middle.
Nice.
Yeah, I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Gotcha.
We're both middle
We're
as
both
well.
middle as well.
Ah,
Yeah.
I thought there was something about you guys.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like the weird and boldness. Now it makes sense. What
I'm
about you?
just the weird only child.
Oh, no, that's not weird. That's
You're
awesome.
all of the things. You're the
You had the
oldest,
highest
youngest,
expectations.
All
middle.
the things.
Yeah, I love it so much. And where did you grow up on the West Coast?
I was born in Salem, Oregon, then actually lived in Idaho as a little kid.
Okay.
Northern Idaho, Boise and then Northern Idaho, and then went back to Salem. And
Oh, okay.
the end of elementary school, and then was there all the way through. Lived abroad in Germany for a couple of years, and then came back to Oregon and went to Portland State.
Oh, nice.
And that's when I started working at Rogue. It was like
Okay,
my
gotcha.
part-time job in college.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
What time frame was that?
I started working at Rogue in 2011.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I
Very
was there
cool.
for like until 2013.
Okay, nice. And that was after a couple of years studying abroad in Germany. Where was that at in Germany?
I wasn't actually studying abroad. I actually went there. My high school boyfriend joined the military, and I followed him.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. My
we
bad.
were outside of Frankfurt.
Okay, incredible.
Yep.
How was the time there?
Amazing. Germany was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good beer, good
I've
pretzels.
always think it's crazy. I look back and just it was pre-smartphone.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I can't believe I was just like map questing and printing out like paper directions to go find like a castle somewhere and like not, and I'm not lost. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, especially
So-
in Germany.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
I love it so much. Ian, so outside of being in the forest, building forts, hanging out with your family, what was it like growing up in Maine? Like high school, any activities that you like to do?
Yeah, it was great. I got into music. I started playing drums when I was 12, and that kind of dictated a lot of my life. I tend to get into things and just give everything I have to them.
Hey,
Oh,
I think
nice.
it's turned out pretty well for you. So
Thank you.
yeah.
That's a very nice assessment. But in high school, I just played in all the bands.
Okay.
I became like the drummer in high school, and it was like everyone knew who I was. It was pretty easy, but it was a ton of fun. And I learned a lot. I've always had a passion for music, and I went to school for music for a year, and then I just kind of flipped out of it. And I didn't play music for a few years, and I got into some trades. I did some HVAC work. Thought about going to school for automotive engineering or mechanical engineering. And my skill sets and my interests and how my brain works really like align with those things. But
I see.
I moved to Portland so after college, I started. Well, I was in some other bands, some rock bands. Moved to Portland thinking, Portland from Bangor, thinking like, if I'm going to be in a band, it should be in Portland. The band never did anything.
The big city.
We made some good music, and it's still precious to me. But eventually, I met. I was introduced to my ex-wife. Then she wasn't my ex-wife then.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's one of my best friends now.
Yeah.
And so I moved to New York City to be with her. We were long distance for a little bit.
Okay.
And that's when I had been homebrewing a little bit. My cousin Ron, just driving down the street one day, he said, "Hey, I always wanted to make my own beer." And it was like another flip after that. So I started very same day. We drove like 3 hours to this homebrew store in New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
'Cause we were young 20s. Like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Why not?
Let's
Yeah.
pick a destination and go
Let's
on a
go.
road trip.
Yeah. No, that
So-
just like unabashed, like we're doing this. We're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this today.
So I brewed my first batch of beer that day, and my timing is awful because this is before I moved to New York City. But after being in Portland for a couple of years, I moved to New York, and eventually we had our daughter there, and it was actually Father's Day. Must have been like 2012 or 2011. I was considering my ex-wife was in publishing. I had all kinds of friends in publishing. I had really good connections. I had an agent, and I was ready to write a brewing book, but I just wasn't really feeling pulled to that. So I had the proposal done, and it was on Pyramid Mountain in New Jersey, because that's where you go hiking when you live in New York City.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was Father's Day, and my then wife and my daughter were on a hike. My daughter wasn't on the hike; she was in a backpack.
Yeah.
And I just realized I had to get back to Maine. Maine is my home. It's always been a part of me, and moving away, I just missed it so much, and I had this greater appreciation for pine trees and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided that the beer industry was changing, a lot was happening, breweries were opening. I figured that was the time when I needed to get back to Maine and kind of contribute what I could to the whole kind of beer landscape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Outside of you doing your own homebrew, had you worked at any breweries during that time?
So when I moved from New York City, I didn't have a job. It was so strange for me because I'd always just gone from job to job, just whatever I could find, whatever I was good at. And I was doing HVAC here, and I considered doing that there, but then I got into food a little more. So I started cooking a lot more. I got to know some food industry people, and I had a job in the food department of this high-end grocery store.
Gotcha.
And it was fun, but at the same time, I was brewing a lot and just kind of trying to get into the back door of all the 4 breweries there were in New York City.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And just like, hey man, check out this homebrew. I mean,
Yeah.
And,
Doing the classic, and if that didn't work, you're like, hey, check out this dish I cooked.
Yeah.
Just swap it.
So I remember I had a 1974 Honda motorcycle that I had kind of rebuilt from the ground up that I got for free. I traded a foosball table for it. And
nice.
I tooled up to 6 Point Brewery with my little Honda and my homebrew in my backpack, and the owner just happened to be there.
Oh, wow.
And apparently I made an impression on him, and on my, this kid on his old bike and kind of grungy looking.
homebrew.
And,
That's
with some
awesome. What a great
halfway
origin
decent
story.
homebrew. Yeah, and it was just a very different landscape back then, and all the breweries. Well, this brewery in particular, Six Point, was growing gangbusters. They were all over the city, and as soon as I got in there, I started to realize that it was kind of the place to be at the time, which was really serendipitous for me. That I was able to make an impression on the owner. I started working for free. I quit my grocery store job the next day. I didn't go back to work, and I started just interning for free at Six Point, and eventually just kind of worked my way up. And a couple of years later, I was running the place.
Oh, wow.
Just from
Goddamn.
from kind of getting after it, working hard and trying to learn everything I could. And the whole world of beer was just so mystifying and like insanely interesting to me. And just like, I remember we'd be kegging beer, and just that little bit of beer that like spurts out of the thing as you're out of the fob as the keg fills. It just like, it was so enchanting.
Yeah.
Like this mysterious liquid that I hardly knew I loved, but I hardly knew anything about. And it just had a power over me even then.
Nice.
So yeah, I just made beer my life after that.
Yeah.
Oh, as is your style. I mean, I'm listening to all the things that you've gone through, and I'm like, there are a few friends of mine that do a similar thing, but I'm like, those are those people where they're like, when they say they're going to start something, and they do, and then they'll go 10 times harder than you ever thought.
Yeah, for sure.
So, where does all that curiosity and I think drive for just like figuring things out come from? Is that something your parents taught you as a kid, or that you watched?
I think I grew up very poor, and I grew up with a dad who basically knew how to do everything.
Oh, okay.
And I was always in awe and never really understood any of it. And I don't know. It's just my family. You just have to do it if you want to see it. You have to do it yourself.
Okay.
A couple generations before me, everyone was living off the land, farming any way they could, cutting wood, trapping, selling furs. And those are my roots. And I feel, as I get older, I realize that makes me a little bit different than most people. Because I kind of, my mother was born in like 54. My dad was born in 50. And like, they still lived as if people would have lived like many, many generations before that, just because you just kind of had to. You had to do what you had to do to survive and take care of your family. And, so yeah, I don't know if that made me a DIYer, but probably.
I think it does. I think that was before DIY was a thing. I think that was just like, it was called like living. Was
just like surviving.
Surviving.
Yeah.
Building your homestead and everything.
I'll do it my damn self.
Yeah, for sure. Do either of y'all remember y'all's first beer or craft beer that you were like, I want to do, or I want to be around this, or just maybe what got you into it more?
Yeah, it was probably Shipyard. My uncle Jim used to come by. My dad drank beer, but he would drink more beer when his brother was around. And I have a really funny memory of like my Uncle Jim looking for a Shipyard in the fridge and saying, "Scott, we're out of Shippies."
Oh, yes.
And to me, that was just so fucking fun. And I didn't really understand much about beer at the time, but it was this local brand that made beer. It started in '94 in Portland, and it was kind of a Maine themed, brew, Shipyard export. And that was like the first time I remember being interested in anything that beer or beer marketing had to offer whatsoever. It just seemed really corporate before that, which just was a turnoff to me.
Yeah, but this has like a personal,
Shippies.
Sentimental tie to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I drank a lot of Shipyard in my day. A lot of Shipyard.
There you go.
I love it.
What about for you, Marcia?
I guess I'd have to credit Rogue. I mean, I did live in Germany, but it was young and I didn't really know what beer, it was just there and you just had it, but I wasn't really able to say like it's this, that, or the other.
Yeah. Was it like a different drinking culture compared to what America is?
I mean, I was like 18, so it was a different drinking culture. Just the fact that I was like, I'm going to go to the bars now because I'm 18.
Yeah.
And then, so I got the job at Rogue and didn't really know anything about craft beer. I actually got hired by Jack Joyce, the founder's son, at a job fair at their hop farm, which was outside of my hometown. Okay. And he was like, he knew I lived in Portland, and he was like, we'll have you start at Flanders. And I'd no idea what that meant. I didn't realize it was like the biggest one that has like 36 beers on tap. And I remember going to my first day of training. It was just a server, and like it was just like a Wednesday lunch, so it was pretty slow. And I learned a few things. And then the next day was First Thursday in the Pearl District of Portland, which is a huge art street festival thing, and Rogue gets slammed every time. And nobody had time to train me. It was the evening, and everybody was too busy, so I did dishes in the kitchen.
Oh, damn.
I was the dish pit. I was like, I'm just help how I can.
Yeah.
And then the next day was a Friday, and somebody no-showed. And the person like who was going to train me, you know, we were at a table and the manager came up and he's like, well, so-and-so didn't show up, so you're going to take that whole section. And I was just like, oh okay. And I remember just people asking me questions, and like Rogue had this giant beer Bible that you could give people to read about because you just didn't have time to explain 35 beers.
Oh, yeah.
But I just remember feeling like this stubborn resolve of like, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to come back and I'm going to know how to tell people what's this or that or like recommend things.
Oh, interesting.
And I just call it stubborn resolve. And
That's great. Is that something you learned from your parents?
probably not.
Okay.
I always like to joke my parents, whenever they had something in common, it usually like negatived out like to me. Like they're both really accident prone. Knock on wood, I'm not. They're both always late. I'm always early. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I decided I wanted to do that. And after work, we would always have beers. And I remember I was, you know, still kind of a novice. So I would start with like Rogue's lighter stuff, like their Soba Ale, which is always great, or like their Hefeweizen, Mom's Hef for Mo, named after their famous, you know, woman who gave them the first tap room. The Mo's Seafood on the Oregon coast. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So Mo herself helped Jack Joyce when he was stuck in a snowstorm.
Oh.
He was stuck like in
that's
Newport
amazing.
down on the bottom, and he couldn't get up the hill. Like cars couldn't get up because there was a freak snowstorm on the Oregon coast, which doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And Mo took him in. He was like, I want to start a brewery. And she was like, you can have this spot if you hang my picture above the bar. And he was like, of course I would do that. He didn't know at the time the picture is actually a naked one of her in a bathtub. Like she's sitting covering up, but she's naked in a bathtub. It's this old lady. And so they put them above every single bar at every single Rogue after that.
That's so smart.
never
What a
known that.
badass old
So
lady. She sounds great. That's
So that's Mo
awesome.
of Mo's Seafood.
We know
Okay.
Mo's Seafood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then,
Wow.
so they named their Hefeweizen after her. It's a good starting beer for Rogue. But within a month, I was drinking like the Brutal Bitter with everybody. It's what all the staff would drink. So I just kind of jumped right in.
Yeah. Love
And I
that
was
so
always
much.
looking for like West Coast IPAs after that. Or
Especially after being tossed into the fire of like, you know, probably two of the busiest days.
yeah,
That's
at
incredible.
the busiest Rogue.
Yeah.
And in like we were joking earlier, like the brewery blocks here in Portland, Maine, like we were in the brewery blocks at Portland, Oregon. Like Deschutes was down the road,
Yeah.
Bridgeport was around the
Yeah.
corner. You know,
Yeah.
so
We're familiar with that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great. I love it. So, okay, you are not writing a beer book, but you come back to Maine. What are the next steps for you whenever you get back?
The next steps is me becoming a businessman.
The other evolution, another skill to learn.
I didn't flip to that out of passion or interest at all.
Necessity.
But it was just a lot of talking to people, convincing them that me starting a brewery was a good idea, raising money. You know, I raised, I think, $300K in our initial funding, and that wasn't. I should have had somebody telling me how to do it better. But, you know, I didn't really have the tools to seek out that sort of help. You know, I read some business books and stuff like that, but I didn't really understand anything about accounting or finance.
Right.
You know, I just lived in the woods, and I worked to live.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know, I like math. I like science. And, you know, that's kind of math and science of a different sort. So. But yeah, it was a lot of work and a lot of building. Like I really, when I took on this space, I wanted it really to have its own kind of aesthetic. I wanted it to be done in-house by me and my team and my friends and people who I had connections with. And that's what we did. So we found stuff around the mill to use to build the tap room, and we did it. And I think it's the most, it's definitely the most unique is not like, there are no degrees of uniqueness, but it's unique, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, we love it. Like taking the tour before this, like we'll be able to share all the pictures and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But like,
online.
there's so many cool things, and we got to do like see like so much cool stuff. So like,
Yeah, it's
love
really
it.
incredible.
Yeah, love
It's
that
cool
there's a
because
story.
it's like the things that you built to, like I said before, it's unique, rustic, and creative, but it also doesn't look junky. It looks like you took time or there was intention about it.
Thank you,
which,
yeah.
which sometimes there are people like, oh yeah, I was just creative and just found some things to use, but it looks like you like hammered it together 30 minutes ago and things aren't lined or it's not sanded.
I've built some stuff like that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that, but personally, I'm like, oh, if I was going to do something creative, it doesn't have to be professional, but it's like I want to make it look like I did it intentionally, not like, oh, shit, But that's also okay for other people. And if you don't like it, you can always email me with your concerns.
Well, it's great to have you guys here and like your curiosity as to like each of the individual elements that I've built and maybe forgotten about over the years. It's great.
Bringing back some memories.
Yeah, it's you're making me proud of my own work. So
Yeah.
thank you very
It's
much.
well deserved.
You didn't even talk about your hopper. Were you
Oh yeah, I learned.
first welding project was
I-
actually
Yeah, I taught
Was
taught
that on the
myself to
pallet
weld
jack?
on
the
the grist case above
Oh,
the.
gotcha.
the grist-
So
case,
the brew house I bought in from where was it? St. Albert, Alberta. $25,000 Canadian. That's why I bought it.
Nice.
It's kind of a piece of shit. But getting it back here and dealing with customs was a pain in the ass. But it's worked really, really well. With a few minor modifications. But I just instead of reading too many business books, I read welding books and brewing books and industrial. Like I learned as much as I could about industrial processes and conveyors and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, very cool. Did you? So is this the original spot or was?
This is the original location. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but y'all have a second location.
We had a second location in
Okay.
Portland. We opened it I actually signed the lease in 2019, I think November 2019.
Yeah.
it's actually Argenta. now.
Argentas.
Yeah.
I was just like, my brain just
Yep.
like put it all together. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Argentas.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
they're what is it? One of the
Yeah, it's on the
window.
it's on the brew
Our
house.
horns are still
Yes.
on the
Yeah.
window of the tank.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally.
Of the mash tun?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sean
I never
Sean
noticed
actually
that.
saw it on Instagram the other day. He's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
the horns are
yeah, because
still
we
there.
just posted their podcast last week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
I
he was
didn't know
fun
you
to
guys
talk
did
Yeah.
that.
to.
Yeah. So, anyways.
Also, another creative.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah.
it's interesting to see like brewers of the new generation and what they're focusing on and what their interests are. It kind of feels to me like they just got here
Yeah.
and like I've been here all along. Man.
Yeah.
I've learned so much, but like the passion is still there.
Right, yeah.
And I think Ryan's beers are good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's pretty much single teaming it over there. It's
Yeah.
him and I think one bartender.
Yeah, and that's
So-
really, I think, when Banded tried to operate that space, I think we did a great job, but I think we had so much going on here that it was just a big lift. And I was going back and forth all the time, always delivering beer with the box truck and
Yeah.
ingredients and brewing once a week. And
I was like the one bartender there for a while. Me and Cody.
our bartenders in Portland were very lonely. 'Cause,
Yeah.
it was much more action packed down here. And was it a bad business decision? I don't think so. I think it was just bad timing.
timing.
Yeah.
And-
the
and we-
construction project, like you guys
Yeah.
went there
Yes.
and it's all
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
but that whole building, like
Yeah.
right outside
Right.
the
Yeah.
patio, that was
Yeah.
being built like when we were there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there was trucks
Terrible,
and,
terrible, terrible
like,
timing.
fences
yeah.
around everything. People couldn't even find us sometimes. And
Yeah.
Well, and especially if the intention is like, cool, we're going to have a brewery here in this new space we're all building. If timelines don't go well for the other businesses, but you're already there, then it's just like a detriment to you because it's like, oh, we thought we were going to have all this foot traffic or infrastructure and it has yet to happen,
Yeah.
but we're still paying rent, operating, having costs.
Things didn't go down in that building in that neighborhood like we were told by
Yeah.
the developers they would. But yeah, it's really selling that spot to Argenta, kind of cutting our losses and just getting back to what my primary focus was originally here is just having a tap room and kitchen that's just great community space and
Yeah.
welcoming and inclusive and big and accepting of everyone. That was a really great move for me personally, and I think everyone at Banded
Felt so as well?
Yeah,
Nice.
for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you'll definitely, like I said earlier, you'll have no fun here.
No,
no, never.
We have to like figure out it. Maybe we'll come for the.
I was gonna say you're gonna stay
A
for
party? We need to
stay for
come.
Lego night tonight.
Oh man, we should. We love Legos.
It's a
Lego
Lego
night.
contest tonight.
Oh, we have to bring our own Legos. We don't
No,
have
you
any.
don't.
Oh,
No. We
So the
have,
whole
we have
premise
both Legos
is,
for you.
like, we actually saw it at, they're probably not there anymore. It was actually this small bar on Alberta in
Oh,
Portland.
okay, gotcha.
And we were out on the patio for like
remember
a
a small
goodbye
bar.
party. And we went in and they were doing this Lego thing.
Mm.
And my husband was like, what is this? And so like you go up and you get like a tray and you get the base. And then they go, okay, you're going to have 15 minutes to build us your best under the sea. And then we have like one of those big Costco tubs of Legos and you're going to get 2 scoops.
2 scoops.
And then you have 15
that's so
minutes to
rad.
build something.
Build something.
And
That's
then
cool.
you get like, you bring it up and they judge it or whatever
Yeah.
for some points. And it's
gosh.
really fun. It's
That's
tonight.
amazing.
It's free. It's just a great, like, we find Legos on the floor for like a few days
I'm sure.
afterwards, but everybody
Just
has
to
a
walk
good
barefoot,
time.
yeah.
Some
No,
people come in and
yeah.
they're like, I loved Legos as a kid. And they're like, oh my God, I'm humbled because like
Yeah.
I followed the directions. So you can tell
Right.
like from the Lego movie, like who's the master builder and who's like the direction followers.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Some people just go wild with it.
I love it. Yeah, y'all have such cool like hearing about all the stuff in the back and like all the different things that y'all do, and it's just very. I love
Yeah.
it for y'all. So
I think
much.
the inclusion, especially the variety events you guys do, is really cool because that is really opening a lot to a community. How is that like brought about or talked about? Because I think again, it's like it's a really cool thing, and more spaces should have it.
I think it comes from just having extra space here.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Having a big, kind of airy, wide open tap room. Yeah, and just having people on my team who are just willing to just try something new and try something that
Nice.
may sound like a stupid idea to somebody else, but if it works, it works. You
Yeah,
know?
everybody here has like similar but also diverse interests. So like we all kind of like board games, video games,
We're
that
all
kind of
nerds.
stuff. We're
Yeah.
all pretty nerdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, love
Yeah,
it. We
and
can't
then-
stay for Legos because we have to go
we
play
have D&D
D&D.
tonight.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
wow. Yeah.
Well,
You
the
guys-
van that we were talking about is
Yeah.
named after his first character.
Is that your first
Oh,
favorite?
yeah.
I love that.
My business card says level 20 paladin,
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's so awesome.
just for fun.
just
you know.
for fun. We
No.
haven't gotten that far. We're still newbies, but
Yeah.
still we love
Do you
it.
guys have a remote group you're playing with? Or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're back in Bend, Oregon. Is
I
where
love
our other
that.
2 players, well, our other player
Awesome.
and our DM is
Yeah.
at. And we were doing a group before we got to level 3, but then just conflicts with other people's like
Yeah.
work schedule and some
It's
of our
so
travel and the time
Hard.
difference. Like they could only meet at like 6:30 or 7:30, but that's like 10 our
Yeah.
time, and we'd be passing out at like midnight, being like,
I'd
"We
li-
have to work."
I
tomorrow."
literally like would fall asleep at
During the
very end.
session.
At the very end, they'd be like, "Bye, Julie," and I'd be like, "She's already asleep."
Yeah.
like, so, anyways, but to get back to just kind of like community and stuff like that, is that how you came up with the name, or how did you come up with the name?
It is related, actually.
Okay.
That's a good guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Most people ask that question without leading into anything, but so good job.
Thank you.
So, as I kind of developed my own passion and appreciation for beer and learning some history of it too, it seemed like the perfect drink to celebrate with, and the perfect drink to band together.
Yeah.
So banded signifies coming together as one.
Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I wish everyone felt this way, but I feel like every human being on Earth, we're kind of all part of the same weird adventure.
Yeah.
We don't really know what's going on. We're just kind of on a rock,
Yep.
just kind of trying to survive. And,
Yep.
Yep.
I think beer is a absolutely beautiful part of our story as a species, and I really wanted to pay homage to that. And beer is just great. It's a really nice beverage. It's very natural. You don't have to put anything weird in it. It's very easy to make. It's very hard to make well.
Yeah.
But
I like how you said that.
thanks. Yeah, as a brewer, you would know.
Yeah.
The different beer styles developing at different parts of the world based on hydrology, the local conditions, weather, climate. It's just so infinitely interesting to me. And people settling down so they could plant barley and have homes and beer and agriculture. I don't think it plays such a huge role in human development. I'm not a historian or an anthropologist, but I love that shit as much as I love
Yeah.
anything
Oh
else.
yeah.
So
People don't realize how deeply woven it is. I mean, like
For real,
societies and communities were built around barley. Like, and they figured out not only to use it for other things, but they could also make their favorite drink, and that's how
Yeah.
a lot of like religious practices and jubilations were held, and it all just evolved into town halls. And now here we are. We get to sit in this really amazing facility and get to share your version of it.
yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, it'll never not be important to me,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it's these times are kind of hard in the beer industry, and we talked about this earlier. Like, yeah, there's some breweries closing where you guys are, and breweries have closed here. I know of a couple more that might close this year.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just, it's sad, and I don't really understand what craft beer did wrong, if anything, to kind of rise so far so fast, and then people are like, well, beer is unhealthy. Like, I don't want to drink beer. It's bitter. Or like, I'd rather drink a mocktail, or like some
Yeah.
weird mushroom infused thing that's being heavily marketed to me on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or I'd rather just drink seltzer. It's like, that's fine. People should make their own choices, but I really wish the whole craft beer industry would do a better job of educating people.
Yeah.
And I haven't done the best job of that either. I'm in the weeds,
Yeah.
I'm working all the time, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a struggle to just open the doors every day and show up every day and be the fix-it guy for every department here. So that's what you guys are for, just do that for me.
That's why we
Yes.
love it.
Develop the appreciation of beer across the human
why
race.
I mean, it's a big reason why we started the podcast. Is Austin and I love to sit and have conversations, and we would do that at breweries, especially at breweries that Austin worked at, or like ones that were in Portland and we're up in Seattle. When we would go travel around, or if we go see my family in Texas or Oklahoma, we would check those out. So we loved it, and we loved hearing the stories, because we'd always sit there and, of course, talk. And after 2 beers, like you always say that you can have a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was just a matter of like, we wanted to share those stories of those people, because you're not at the bar. You're not
Right.
who gets to sit not many people get to sit at a bar and talk to the owner and, share that conversation. And so that was a big part of why we started the podcast, is, we want to share those stories, and that's why small business is the way it is. And we wanted to make sure that when people come to Maine, they come to Banded. So.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think also, too, part of it, and I would say this is part of your question being like, why do people not care anymore? Because I think about this a lot, because that was where we talked earlier. It's like, I just found myself in a spot in Portland where it's like, this thing that I loved that I knew at like 21, I was like, I want to fucking do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I found myself being like, why am I like anxious, stressed, not liking my work? And it made me think like, did I choose the wrong thing to like devote my life to? And so like taking a step back from that, and we've gotten to see and talk and hear all these amazing people and stories and community. It's like, oh, everything I was around and all the information I was receiving was saying like, this is how it is. But really, once I stepped outside that bubble and like walked around, it's like, no, there's people like you, the people at Zillicoa, the people, I mean, literally everywhere that we.
Yeah, I think y'all are number 39 for us, our 39th brewery.
Damn. Wow.
So, I mean,
amazing.
hearing the stories, like, you're not the only one. Like, I wish we could have like a little, like, bring all the brewery people that we've been able to talk to, bring it all together, and y'all could have great conversation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And be like, hey, see, like,
Call
y'all.
it like the Feel Good Club or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like y'all are feeling the same thing, y'all are saying the same thing. So I don't know exactly what it is, but
Yeah, but I think it
Yeah.
is. I think that there's so much information that we receive that says it's otherwise. Obviously, there's like the financial times aren't great, and there is like a deflation in craft beer. We listened to a podcast previously while on our drive here, kind of talking about like the craft beer deflation. But that's also proven to show that like breweries that are strong in their values and their community really have survived and done well.
Right,
and I think
for
people
sure.
in the community that are receptive to that are much so. And I think our generations were really born with that. Like, we still really enjoy like the era we grew up in was like without social media, local businesses were like mom and pop shops and you knew them. A local business wasn't like, again, this is not throwing shade at anything, but like some cheap niche natural grocery store that popped up that sells natural wine and really expensive cheeses in an old neighborhood that may not necessarily fit for the, like the economic level in there, but people would be like, oh, but it's local. And so I think it was just how we grew up, because now the upcoming generations, they grew up with like microdose mushrooms and weed is legal, and then they have this variety of things where they're just like, it wasn't as special to them. It was like, oh, that's just always been there, but this hasn't always been here, and so I think we really understand that.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
It's just so wild. I love it.
And then all of us that loved it started working in the industry, like I said earlier, and we stopped buying it.
We're employing our best customers. Yeah.
Exactly.
But seriously, no, it's great. So you opened in November 2013, right? Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was like, I think I remember that.
I was like, I think I remember that too.
Yeah. So what has it been like over the years? Like fluctuation, y'all have expanded. Y'all were just this first area you talked about it, and then y'all been able to expand so much more. Outside of the tap room, like, are y'all pushing your beer out to the local community and grocery stores, and what does that look like for y'all?
Yeah, for sure. So I opened with the thought of being just a production brewery.
Okay.
Without a tap room necessarily. I knew I'd build one someday.
Yeah.
We ended up building one 3 months after we opened. It was not hard to do. Like the
Right.
regulations were super simple. The city was great to deal with. But yeah, we've always focused on distribution. We started in Massachusetts and Vermont, and eventually added New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Connecticut.
Yeah.
But now we're just in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Very cool.
Yeah, Vermont doesn't want any beer that's not
was about
that's
to
not
say.
Vermont beer, and I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But it's just a microcosm of like super local, kind of like it is here.
We've
Gotcha.
only done one podcast in Vermont.
Yeah.
And it feels very like small niche.
Yeah,
for
I
sure,
wish I could
so.
sell more beer there because I want to go there more.
Yeah.
I want to go there and physically sell the
Yeah.
beer.
Yeah.
No,
for
absolutely.
sure.
But
Yeah,
sorry,
they're definitely ride or die for their state and their
Yes.
business.
Yeah.
And also, too, distribution laws when they vary state to state can really like choke hold people out. There was a big thing between Oregon and Washington where Washington was like charging way more, I think, for Oregon to put their beer into Washington State, and then vice versa. It was really cheap for Washington to go into Oregon.
Right.
And so, a couple breweries came up and was like, no, we're not doing this. Who knows? Maybe it was the other way around. It might have been
Yeah.
Washington, Oregon. Anyways.
Something. It
What
seems
a
like a good.
shock, though.
It seems like a
Oregon
good
and Washington
rival.
against each other.
Yeah.
Oh, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Shocker.
We're only 3 hours apart, but people act like it's a
Yeah.
world away.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
even Portland, you're just looking across at
Yeah.
Washington
Oh, yeah.
the whole time.
Oh yeah. No, for sure.
And dealing with wholesalers too has been a huge struggle and just like a huge source of like not knowing what the fuck's going to happen.
Yeah.
Uncertainty. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
We started with a small wholesaler in Maine that was owned by a bigger company, and it really, I think they did their best by us for when they were open, but then they sold to a bigger wholesaler.
Right.
And now, now we have 3 wholesalers in Maine, and they've done great. Like it's been in Maine where we're local, that's kind of worked out in our favor, but in other states, especially New Hampshire, it's like our wholesaler sold to another one. Their whole portfolio got bought. They selected some brands to bring along, some brands to drop. But our sales numbers in that state are just through the floor now. So it's like you can focus more on local doing sales, and you're just much better off. There's much less resistance. People know who you are automatically.
Yeah.
So the world's changing, and we've had to make a lot of moves to adapt to it. I have the smallest sales team that I've ever had now, so 1.5 people.
Yeah.
I was about to say, is that both of you, or it's like
No.
Go Molly.
So I can do sales, but my sales is going to your bar and ordering a beer and trying to talk to you about it.
Gotcha.
I would be very bad at root sales because I'd have to do that every place I went to.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, but with the number of breweries increasing, and I think kind of craft beer shot itself in the foot in a way. I think some people got into it for the wrong reasons, and a few years ago you would start to see just the shelves were just confusing.
Yeah.
There's so many beers.
So many
Even a store
beers.
in Maine that I would go to, I'd be like, I haven't heard of half of these beers. There's
Yeah.
3 new breweries I've never heard of who have shelf space. They're all sharing it with us. And, fair is fair, but it's like when there are that many choices and the same amount of consumers, beer's going to sit there, beer's going to get warm, beer's always on the warm shelves. And I don't know. Maybe we're in kind of a recorrection of the industry now. I hope that's what's happening.
Yeah.
We think so. We hope so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people still love beer.
Right.
You know, we're still here. You guys are here.
Yeah.
We all love beer. But yeah, it's been very interesting. You know, I couldn't have predicted how these last 12 years would go.
Yeah.
You know, but I opened thinking we would be brewing 10,000 barrels a year, sending only kegs out.
Yeah.
No packaging. That was
What
my
a
hope
dream.
anyway.
Yeah.
What a dream.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to know how you stumbled upon Banded.
So, my husband and I were actually living in Japan for like 6 years, and we came back to.
You've just been everywhere.
I have. I've tried. And we came back to the States. We were in Washington for about a year. I was working at Doomsday Brewing, and Nick was working at Fortside Brewing. And my best friend actually is from here. We met when we were over in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was great. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm from Portland area too. And she meant Portland, Maine, and I meant Portland,
Yeah.
Oregon.
Oh,
So we were like,
that's
wow,
so
we
funny.
almost couldn't be from further apart. So we had visited her several times, and we always loved visiting out here. And when
Okay.
we were coming back from Japan, we decided we were going to try to live in Maine. Spent the year in Washington saving up, and then bought our house here in Saco. And when I got here, I mean, I have a pretty killer beer resume, so I went around to a lot of places. And I remember I went to Blaze, I went to Barreled Souls. I got a job at Foulmouth Brewing that's now closed.
Okay.
But I had come into Banded, and I remember my husband was waiting in the car because obviously our parking lot's tiny, and I think he like double parked just so I could run in.
Oh, okay.
And I walked in through that big door, and I saw all of this, and I was like, that place is so cool. Like, I want to work there. And at the time, they weren't hiring. And I got the job at Foulmouth, was there, did a couple other things, and then saw Banded was hiring online, and I jumped on it. I got written back, and then I went back, and I was like, oh, it was for Portland, which was fine.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to be just right down the street.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just stumbled in and just like immediately loved the vibe. Like even just
Nice.
walking in through that door, it's always just so impressive. Like people still come in, you know, that have never been here, and you see them just stop and like.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you see it's like they just take their phone and like take a
Yeah.
picture of this whole
Like in
like,
awe.
right here.
Yeah.
That's cool. Universe gave you an opportunity. You
Yeah.
were like, fuck yes.
Yep. And I remember coming in and I was like, oh, I hope I can work there someday. And it just took a little bit, but
Yeah.
about
Worked out.
6 months or so, and then
No,
I
that's
got in
perfect.
here.
I love it so
Yeah.
much. I mean, that's the way it happens. Like, I think I stumbled into Seven Seas. We were there for a beer on a Friday night. It was busy. Tap room was slammed. And my best friend, I moved to Washington to be with my best friend. And she was asking everybody. She was like, are you hiring? Are you hiring? Are you
Yeah,
hiring?
Julie didn't even ask.
I didn't even ask. It was Jacqueline. She was like, are y'all hiring? And the girl was like, yeah, tap room manager. Where I was like, I've been a manager before. I could do this. I'd never poured a beer in my entire life. I had no killer resume for beer. I literally
Yeah.
had no beer resume.
You had a great corporate killer
Great
resume.
corporate.
Yeah.
But I remember my first day, they like showed me how to pour a beer off of the tap because I was like, I don't know. I've seen people do it.
Yeah, how hard could it be?
How
It's easy,
I was
right?
like, yeah. So anyways, but
my,
yeah,
my favorite memory of when she first started working, and I was the grungy production manager. I ran the canning, kegging line, and just running around. So I was always just like singing, but probably really sweaty. And I noticed this long-haired, dimpled, freckled, pretty girl going upstairs, and I was just like, "Oh, everybody's gonna be talking about this chick in like 3 hours." And sure enough, my cellarman came down. He's like, "Dude, you see the new girl?"
So then you're like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to injure myself in front of her.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Fall
help
down the
me.
stairs.
But so you were actually there was
I
a day.
didn't know the styles either.
No, yeah,
'Cause
so-
I was like studying beer stuff too, and I didn't know, but I knew enough.
We had a great range. Seven Seas. We had we had Pilsner, American Hef, a red, a brown, 2 IPAs. I think we had a Brewed On, and then we had like a porter and a brown ale and a stout.
Yeah.
But so she's sitting at the bar, and I just got off from the gym, and I'm like sitting there, and I'm just like reading or something, and I can hear this conversation. This guy's like, "Hey, do you have a porter?" And she's like, "Yeah, hold on a second." She's like, and it's a giant U. There's like 36 taps, and so she's like bouncing around, and then she comes over to me, and she's like, "Do we have a porter?" And I'm like, "No, but we have a brown ale." And she's like, "We got a brown ale." That was like one of our first kind of conversations.
I knew we had a brown beer.
Something was brown.
I knew something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that was great.
Yeah, stumbling in and then working.
Yeah, and it really did. It started off, I was like, this chick just seems rad, and she has a slight accent, so I found out she was from Texas. We were just talking about life, and I was like, hey, if you ever want to learn about beer, I was also beer tending at Narrows Brewing at the time, too. So I was like, come down and hang out. And then,
So I went and I learned, I probably learned more there than I did at Seven Seas.
Yeah.
But still, like, it was good time to learn other things.
Awesome.
But anyways,
Yeah.
enough about us. This isn't about us.
Bring back the reds and ambers. That's all I have to say.
oh, yeah.
Only if
Mac and
they're
Jack's
really-
Amber Ale. Just
only
make a
if
Mac and
they're-
Jack's
Only
bomb.
if they're really good. Because we've
True.
had some, like, I used to always be like, I want a red. I'll get it. And then I remember they just started going downhill at one point in time, and I stopped even wanting to even do a taster of a red because I was just like, I don't want to be grossed out.
I just feel like out in Oregon and Washington, like it has to be in the lineup. There has to be a red, amber, or brown ale somewhere in the lineup,
Oh, yeah.
and it's not the thing out here as much.
Yeah,
like we make them, but
We got
I
cool.
Yeah.
brewers
Y'all got
brewers had to get cool, and
Yeah.
nobody wanted that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
I'll-
our red just got brewed today. Or
we did
yes,
brew the
it's in the
red
tanks
today.
Oh,
That's
nice.
so-
Congrats on that.
Maybe
It's a
we'll get-
lager. It's not a red ale. It's a red lager.
It's a red
Okay,
lager, yeah.
nice.
Maybe
It's
we'll be
very
here
good, though.
whenever it comes out before we leave.
Oh, yeah.
Have one. Be great.
Yeah.
it's very good.
We got 4 weeks left.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And
You get some
It
Mo.
is the friendship beer.
Oh, okay. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Oh,
Very cool.
amazing.
Love
Yeah.
that so much.
Nice.
Do you remember the beers that you started? Maybe not on it because you didn't have the tap room. But what beers did you start brewing with? These days?
Yeah, I started brewing Viridian. Viridian IPA was the first beer we brewed
Gotcha.
here,
Very
and
cool.
it's a little different now. It's undergone some metamorphosis, and
Change is sometimes needed.
yeah, totally. And a lot of it has to do with our evolution as brewers, people's evolution in taste. Honestly, Austin, you probably know what I'm talking about here with the New England IPA.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
You're not a New Englander. You probably call it a hazy IPA or something.
Yes,
weird like
exactly.
that, but,
Yes, we do. Even I still do. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They got them hazies out
Got
there.
them hazies. I did learn that it was mainly about the yeast, too. Learning about,
Yeah.
was it ringwood or ringworm yeast that was typically...
Ringworm yeast.
Maybe not. No, it's probably ringwood.
Yeah, yeah,
Ringworm would not be good as a yeast. Don't worry. But yeah, I think it's ringwood yeast was like the common yeast that was
Yeah.
typical in the New England area. Then they were like, oh yeah, well that was like how New England style IPA came about.
Yeah, and as in brewing these beers, it would we would talk to other brewers. We'd be like, "How do you do it? What's going on?" We all had heady topper.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was so different from anything else that was around. I'm sure there were others probably made more locally then too, but it was originally sort of a West Coast IPA.
Yeah.
My version of it. Not too hazy. Nice hop bite, nice bitterness. But it's always the point of that beer has always been an ideal, easy drinking IPA. And as tastes change, and as me and my brewers and my staff learn more about producing those beers, it kind of got converted, and now it's hazy. It's a New England style IPA. We're in New England.
Yeah.
No, I love it. The
And,
color on it's great too.
Yeah, it's it's balanced. Balance is, I always say, is the core principle of any good beer.
I would
It needs to be
agree, and I'm
balanced.
not a brewer.
It needs to find its balance between certain flavors, and for me, Viridian at 6% is easily drinkable.
Yeah.
It's not super thick or sugary, and it's got just enough of that pop and that fruitiness, kind of like orange creamsicle,
Yeah.
nice fruitiness,
Yeah.
and just a touch of a bitter finish.
Yeah.
And for me, that works perfectly.
100%.
A lot of people like stronger IPAs, but give me a 6% beer with a nice
No.
hop presence.
So good.
And that also
It's
just shows how
well-balanced.
evolution of your own taste and palate. Definitely when I started even just drinking craft beer, it was a lot of high percentage stuff because I was like, that's the most flavorful,
Oh, yeah.
that's the tastiest.
9% or higher. You find the bombers.
Oh, yeah.
that are 9, 10,
Yeah, like
12%.
Torpedo
You get your money's
by
worth.
Sierra Nevada. But no, this is great. You said orange creamsicle.
Oh, yeah, that
and
was
it reminded me
immediately-
of, there's the candies, the orange candies that you can, orange slice candies. That's what it
Ooh,
reminds me
yeah,
of. It's
nice.
not that sweet, but a little
Yeah.
bit of that aroma and flavor. I was like,
I
oh,
love
that's
it.
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, it took a few years to find the right hops that I wanted for this beer. But ever since we went with Citra Chinook, it's never going back.
Yeah.
It's in its final form now.
Nice.
Can I ask how you came up with the name? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
That's a long story, but
Okay.
we're on your podcast, so
Okay,
if you want me to
good.
answer now, so there's schools of thought that say you should name your beers something that's pronounceable and something that's an actual word, and I decided
Have you been
not
to
do
Burial
any
in
of that.
North Carolina?
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of a mashup of 3 different words, and if I can remember all 3, I'll be really proud of myself. Veritas, which means the truth in Latin. Viridian, like VIR, which
Okay.
is a type of green. And
Oh,
then,
okay.
what's the other one?
Is it Verdant?
Verdant.
Verdant?
Oh.
Verdant. So, we're celebrating verdant growth of malt, hops, and, abundance of nature.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I,
so
I,
love
I
it.
like that process.
The first bottle had all that story written on it. And there's- in the men's bathroom, there's still an old label on the wall.
I
So
love
that's
that.
how I remember.
It came out just like a cliff note,
Yeah.
it just like folds out like a bifold. You're like, oh my god.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
we just put a beer back on that hasn't been canned in a while. And he sent me
Yeah.
the old label, and I was like, oh my God, there used to be so many words
Yeah,
on
we
these
used to write a
labels.
story on every
Yeah.
label.
Also, so did a lot of labels back
Yeah.
at Bombers. You had this space, and it
Yeah.
looked
The room
weird.
for 'em, yeah. Rogue always had a story on
Yeah,
the
I remember Gigantic Brewing in Portland always did that. They always had crazy art, but then their label with the description, it was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Okay, my follow-up question. How do you do the art? How do you decide what's on the can?
It's
Please.
an interesting question.
Okay.
I hope if it's is that a job you do?
Hell no.
Okay.
No,
I was
that's
like-
of the things I DIY. I do not design or draw
it.
anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So a few of the labels, Viridian and also Daikaiju, Brett Stenson did the artwork, and
Okay.
he's from, I believe he's from Portland. Do you know Brett
My
Stenson?
Portland?
Yeah.
No.
Anyway,
We'll look him up,
yeah.
and we'll
So-
and we'll tag him too.
we did a rebrand where we dropped the horn from the name in like late 20-teens,
Okay.
2017, let's just say. And that's still the primary question I get asked is why aren't you? What happened
Oh,
to
yeah.
the horn?
We used to
you
be
know?
Banded Horn Brewing.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Right. Yeah. So we started as
That's why
Banded
there's
Horn.
the 2 horns. on the
I
labels,
see.
Yeah.
And in this rebrand, we were doing all new images. And we had a design studio help us out. So this design
nice.
studio, they were friends or they knew Brett Stenson, and so we commissioned or we purchased rights to 2 of his pieces of artwork. So Viridian
awesome.
and Daikaiju both have his artwork on.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure that and we'll post it like today, but we'll make sure that we have photos of those and have them all tagged.
Cool.
Because we're
Yeah.
all for people getting their name out.
Yeah, and those labels haven't changed in like 7 or 8 years.
Hell yeah.
And all the other labels we've always done in house.
Very cool.
You know, I've had a hand in inspiration and thoughtfulness and names and stuff like that. But
yeah. Love
Daikaiju.
it.
there are
Daikaiju's our
things that are
double
better left to
IPA.
the experts.
Yeah.
Daikaiju's our double IPA, and it's the other beer that people can't pronounce.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
our 2 flagship IPAs. People like, I like the one with the V.
Yeah.
Now we just
that
name
one.
our beers like letters and numbers.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, there you go.
Very
You
simple.
make it very easy
Yeah.
for the consumer.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
but no, it's very noticeable. Like it looks very nice in the cooler, and you can tell with how unified it is. You can tell it like from a mile away. I worked for a short stint at Belmont Station, which is a premier like craft beer bottle shop in Portland, Oregon, and we have, thousands of cans and bottles. And kind of like how you're saying, you're like when beer sits on a warm shelf. Yes, we definitely have done that, and yes, we have talked about how if we're going to have this much beer, we should probably move it as quickly as possible so it doesn't sit warm for our
Right on.
customer. But they've done better. Anyways, but on the cooler, it can be. It's like it can be almost overwhelming. And so people will typically, they gravitate towards things they know because when there's so much variety and they're like trying to make a decision, consumers make a decision usually in 3 to 5 seconds about what they want to buy. And so having that recognizability and it's clean and it's nice and it fits well, it's like makes it that much easier for someone to be like, oh yes, I want to try, I want to learn about that. If it's too confusing, they just move on.
Yeah. Brett's art just really spoke to me, and we got a bunch of samples of stuff that we might be able to use, and I saw the actual Viridian can was an illustration that he did prior
Yeah.
to, and I was like, I want that. And they're
Yeah.
like, you can't have that. That's already an illustration. And I was like, tell how much for that. And,
Yeah.
It's not like we spend thousands of dollars on these things, but
Yeah.
the whole campfire and the kind of mythical beasts
I liked the
and
beasts
stuff
around
and like
it.
the kind of wild whimsy
Out in the
around
woods.
it. It's
Yeah.
like, like, we try to make whimsy of all types part of our branding and
Nice.
just fun monsters, little tiny monsters, fires,
Nice.
woods.
All the
Love it.
things. We love it. We love all of those things.
Oh yeah,
Being on
can't
the
get
West
enough.
Coast. So, you've had your like plan of like how you've done stuff. How do you decide what you're going to be brewing next? What is going to be new? What's something, if you're bringing back something you haven't brewed in a while? What does that kind of look like for your brew schedule?
So, in terms of our seasonal releases, it's kind of been the same rotation for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a question of how much do we brew of this one, how much do we brew of this one.
Okay.
We want to brew more of this one, but, not enough people bought it last year. So it's even if it's a beer that I'm super passionate about, it can become hard to like really translate that into sales.
Yeah, unfortunately, like the money part of the equation is
Yeah.
crucial just to
Yeah.
continue making. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But now, we'll do probably 5 or 6, 7 or 8 new beers a year. 11 is the latest one we brewed.
Okay.
So for our 11th anniversary, which was
Oh,
last
yeah.
December.
Oh,
So
nice.
good.
Nice.
So, I was like, well, what do I want to drink?
Yeah.
Basically, and I talked with my brewers a little bit. We brainstormed in the office here and there, and I settled on just a nice, I don't want to say Baltic porter because it's not really porter like roastiness or anything, but it's a dark lager made with 3 different trees.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it has birch bark, it has beechwood smoked malt, and it's aged on oak.
Okay.
That's so
Very cool.
awesome. He would have loved, I'm blanking on his name, maybe Charlie from Ale Apothecary out in Bend, Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Or, yeah.
I've told him he needs to visit Bend.
You do need
You
to
would.
go. Come on to
Yeah.
the West Coast.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, he started
probably
off,
warmer
he,
there,
he
right?
built a lot of,
No,
It's
Not
not as,
anymore.
but it's not as cold
I
as
mean,
here.
right now.
Right
Oh,
now,
yeah.
it's
Specifically right now.
Bend would not be though.
Bend would not.
Oh,
Bed would
No,
not
it's
be.
like high plains,
Oh,
like high
yeah,
desert.
gotcha.
Like,
Yeah.
there's
It is
mountains all
lots of
around
snow.
It is
it.
cool.
Yeah,
Some cool
you would
canyons.
Love it, though. It's gorgeous.
He
Yeah.
for a long time he brewed his beer in like oak vats, and then had
Hell
did the log brewing. I forget what type
Yeah,
style
it's
of
like
beer it's called,
through-
Sahale.
Yeah.
But they do like juniper branches and pine boughs, and
You
you run your wort through that and
Yeah.
whatnot. But he's a really awesome, creative dude and a big musician too.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so just
Yeah.
hearing that, I know he would have been very stoked.
It's the West Coast you.
Yeah.
Where is this guy?
Yeah, he also welds. He does a billion
Yeah.
different things. So
Yeah. No,
Does he
it's
have
very
a
cool.
fluffy dog?
no,
I have no
how
idea.
cute is his dog?
I
yeah,
have no
yeah. Oh,
idea.
okay. Requirements.
No idea.
I like that.
No idea. Well, okay, cool. So that's how your strategy moving forward. I want to hear events. I'm assuming you do more event stuff. So, like, what kind of events y'all are looking forward to this year?
This year, I mean, we have our regular ones. We do a trivia. Lego is like once a month. We have a bi-weekly bluegrass group that comes in.
Oh, fun.
Oh,
It's
very
just
cool.
a jam session.
Yeah,
Like
love
it's
that.
one woman kind of like shows you the chords, and then like 20 to 30 people come just to play.
I love that.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so
it's crazy.
awesome.
It sounds like
It's
Nashville.
such great vibes.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Um,
I grew up like going to Hootenannies, and my dad's side of the family, they were all musicians, and that was how
Yeah.
it went. Somebody started playing one thing, and sooner or later you had 8 to 12 people.
Yep. We try to have live music at least once a month. We're trying to build that more.
Okay.
Now that the deck is bigger, we had like our summer party outside, and we had a really great. They're more of like a wedding band, but
Uh-huh.
they're just the best energy, and they just love it. They love coming here. They did our anniversary party as well. So trying to build like people thinking about us having music here. So we have the space for it.
Love that. Very cool.
We participate in the town's Oktoberfest. It's put on by the town
Okay.
every year. So that's when we had the van. Everybody was wearing the
Yeah.
lederhosen.
Mhm.
Yep. We go to a lot of festivals.
There are way too many beer festivals.
There's a lot of beer
Yeah.
festivals.
Yeah, that is. That
We
is
need-
hard.
They're great fun. but
We
yeah.
need to like plan out our 2025
Yeah.
and the festivals that we want to go to because we've heard about all of them like as we've trenched across the U.S.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we need to like actually plan out where we're going to be when.
Yeah.
We are hoping. We're in talks with the Maine Renaissance Fair of trying to do
Oh,
something with
awesome.
them. Like it's actually like I stumbled upon it. It was only its second year, the first summer I was here. And I was like, oh, I'll go to a Renaissance Fair. I don't care if it's cheesy or whatever. And we went and we were like, oh my God.
It's
like,
so
it
much
is-
fun.
Really cool.
No, but this one was like one of the best ones I've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like not just like, just a park with people in it. There's
Right.
like, a whole schedule and a whole bunch of acts and people that are
Oh,
actually
yeah.
on the national like Renaissance Fair circuit,
Sure,
which
yeah.
I
Oh,
learned
wow.
was like a big thing.
Yeah.
And they have a tavern and we're hoping to be able to be a part of that with them this year and maybe make them something special for just like the
sweet.
Renaissance Fair.
Maybe a brown ale.
There
Yes,
you
I
go.
said it has to be an
Brown
ale.
I like that.
You need
Tavern
an
ale.
I like
Yeah.
that. Like an ESB. Love that.
So
perfect. I
yeah,
love
and
that so
then
much.
every winter we have our anniversary party. It's usually a 2-day thing. And
Okay.
Yeah.
we try to have like we have a pretty awesome pride party every year as well.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
We did last year. It was my husband's idea, but it was like neon rainbow.
Okay.
So we put like you can see above the bathrooms those black lights up, and
Oh,
then
There's
yeah.
still
we
black
switch
lights
out.
everywhere. Yeah.
We switch out bulbs and like we had all the lights off and we had everything like taped off, like the horns there are still taped off in like neon reactive.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Like
see.
tape.
Oh, very cool.
And everybody showed up wearing just like neon reactive
Neon.
clothes.
Oh
And
my
we had like a
gosh.
drag queen perform and like it was just a blast.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
we love that. We used to go to drag brunches in Atlanta at the brewery
Yeah.
that we worked at, and
Nice.
such a good time.
Yeah.
I always get worried, especially when there's wood floors. I'm like, don't get splinters, don't get splinters.
Oh yeah, with all the sliding.
They do like
drops.
slides or
And the dead
drops.
drops.
Yeah. I'm like, don't get splinters.
It's more like they'd get a nail here.
Oh,
nails
gosh.
up.
Nice.
This floor is nailed together. So
Yeah.
it's nails popping up.
And that means you get a checkup on your tetanus shot.
Yeah, no, for sure.
What else? Ian takes part in Brewery Battle of the Bands.
Oh,
Oh,
that's coming
nice.
right
Thing
up.
here.
Yeah.
It's coming up soon.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
what breweries have
actually,
participated in the
Oh,
past?
you won't be here in March. I was going to say
Yeah,
it's in March.
Yeah, it's
Unfortunately.
about 6 weeks away.
Okay,
Exactly.
gotcha.
So yeah, it's I'm in a. We used to have our own band. It used to
Banded?
be the Banded. We call ourselves the Branded Bozos because that's people misspeak all the time or misread
Oh,
and
yeah.
call us
Thank you.
Branded Brewing.
Branded. Yeah,
And it's
I
like
can
what?
see that.
That
The
doesn't make any
alliteration.
sense. We're not branded, you know. Well, we are, but
This is the
Yeah.
brand, but we're calling
Yeah.
like our brand.
yeah. So but the people in that band with me don't work here anymore.
Oh.
Unfortunately. So now I've joined forces with Rising Tide because they actually it was actually Alex from Rising Tide. I believe the first Brewery Battle of the Bands was his idea, and that was
Okay.
probably almost 10 years ago.
Damn.
I think
So this is becoming a long story tradition.
right, it is, and from 2019 was the last one we did until about a year ago.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
we took a few years off. But then bringing it back, it's like, of course we want to do this. It's the most fun night of my
It was
my
so
year.
fun last year. Oh my
Nice.
gosh.
So yeah, Oxbow has a band, Allagash has a band, Good Fire has a band.
Okay. Well,
I-
that's
I
so
do
incredible.
see
There might be
that.
another one, but it's
That is, I've never even thought about all the people that we talk to that are working in the brewery industry, not only owners or like head brewers. It's like we know so many people that are
Yeah.
are in the arts who also brew or love beer or whatever. That never occurred to me that they
Yeah,
should
a
have a
brewery
battle,
battle of
of
the bands.
bands.
yeah, like we would get our set pretty tight, and we'd be like, we got this. There's no way we're gonna lose. And then all the other bands are really
Really
really good.
good.
Oh, nice.
Like,
Like
every-
last year, it was the whole night. It was just everybody that went up.
Yeah, you're
It
like,
was
what?
so impressive.
I thought there was supposed to be one good band, but
Of course, Allagash
everyone
came
has
out
their
in
shit
their like
together.
matching jumpsuits though, and I was like, come on.
That was cute. That was very cute. It was well worth it. They did a great job.
This year you'll just get Banded Brewing sweat like tracksuits.
I was
Yeah.
thinking of getting like a whole rainbow robe or something.
Oh, that's
Something-
awesome.
Something
Getting some,
interesting under it.
tearaway or
Tear-
something.
I love
tearaway,
it.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, that's so
What
much
are the
fun.
what are the styles of like genres of music? Is it just across the board, or are people
Oh, it's-
playing their own?
it's
It's
all
everywhere.
90s.
Pop
All
rock.
90s.
All 90s.
Amazing.
Nice.
I was gonna say,
Nice.
Pretty sure Allagash went up there and they brought the house down when they did Fall Out Boy and then ended with Creed. So
Oh,
we
my
were just
God,
like,
yeah.
oh,
we're like,
So
okay,
amazing.
Yeah.
you're gonna hit us with those bangers.
Yeah,
like,
especially a
just
few,
get the whole
few
room.
beers deep. You're like
Yeah.
deeply contemplating.
Allagash has a deep. Speaking of deep, they have a deep pool of employees to pull from.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
They did
This is true.
They did an entire Black Sabbath set one year.
Oh,
they
that's
did an
awesome.
entire AC/DC set another year. It's just such a trip and
I love
such a
that
great
so
time.
much.
Yeah, these are the things though where it's like more of this needs to happen because this is what makes this community tight knit, and not just for like, hey, I need yeast. It's like if someone's having a hard time or needs help, like maybe
Yeah.
something not even related to brewing, feel
Yeah.
comfortable in talking to these
So
people.
hey, we need a drummer. What are you doing?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, this
Exactly.
is some things that we don't always get into, but yeah, like mental health in breweries is such a big thing, and
Yeah.
so we've talked to like a few brewers, and like what do they do with their teams and stuff like that to make sure that
There it is.
oh my
That's
gosh,
Battle of the Bands.
I love that.
That's epic.
But anyways, yeah. So it's just like that community stuff where I'm like, I wish that we could like bring all of the people that we've like interviewed together at some point in time and like hang out and stuff like that.
Y'all's workplace dynamic seems very like open and transparent. Is there something you can elaborate more on that, like how that came to be or what your vision is for that amongst you and the employees?
I trust them.
Nice.
And they're very good people.
Nice.
So
Great employees.
that's and I don't have the skills or the attention span to micromanage anyone.
Gotcha.
So it's just a matter of getting the right people here
Nice.
who like are willing and able to do their own jobs and come to me when they need something.
Yeah.
You know, we have like 6 different departments here.
Gotcha.
And I can't be the expert in everything all the
Right.
time, nor would I want to be.
Yeah.
That sounds exhausting. So yeah, like people like Marcia come in and make themselves incredibly useful. And like,
And you're like, you're staying.
well done.
they're like,
well done.
What else do you want to do? What else you got for me?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I try to run this place. You know, I try to be people first in all decision making. Of course, employees are super important. Most of us have a family. Everyone's going to be taken care of, and of course, paid on time. But really, like I found the best success from my team when, instead of just making specific suggestions, I don't give the people anything. All right, I'm not like, that's not what's happening here. But you know, in this kind of weird social construct of me being this like monarch of Banded Brewing, I try to give people the space they need and the resources they need to be great at their jobs.
I love that.
Yeah. And it sounds pretty self-righteous of me, honestly.
But-
and I don't mean it to sound that way.
I don't think at all it's self-righteous. It's only I think it's lost. And I think there's a lot of breweries and business, maybe not even breweries in general, but just businesses in general.
Yeah, I can't run my business any other way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's success or failure in the long term. In a way, I don't feel like it's up to me. You know, I'm just here to make sure the product is amazing, make sure the vibes are good, make sure the people are nice, and the chips are going to fall where they may.
Yeah. I think it's also just a skill. You have good self-awareness. Seems both of you do. So, and probably the rest of your team. People that micromanage sometimes don't. And that's where you have to be like, well, this is now a problem or an issue. Or if you want to do it all yourself, that's why you just kind of work alone.
Well, that's literally like not having trust. So like the fact that you have so much trust in your team, and like we got to spend the whole afternoon with y'all, and it was just so cool and so fun to hear all the stories, and like we got to meet several people, and just I don't know, it just seems like a cool place to work, and I think if people feel that when they walk through the door, they're gonna want to come back, and I do think that people feel that when they come to the door. They are coming back.
That's the most important job.
Yeah.
You know, we can distribute beer all over the fucking world if we want to. No one's going to understand who we are and what we do necessarily if they just pick up a can on the shelf. I'd much rather have them come in here to try our food, talk to our bartenders, kind of see all the crazy, weird stuff we've done.
The fun stuff. There's so much
No,
fun stuff. I'm like,
exactly.
I want to go
Yeah.
over there and play Mario Kart, dude.
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
what, like,
You
The
guys
Mug
want a
Club.
Tecmo Super Bowl match? I'll take you down.
Oh, you can play him. I'm terrible.
That's what like the Mug Club was great too, because
Yeah.
these people were already coming in. So this is at our anniversary party in December, launched the second year. So we expanded it a little bit, but I mean, 100 people that come in regularly, that like the staff, and we know, you know, we see them coming in, we reach for their
Yeah.
mug. Some of them we know exactly what they're gonna get. Some
that's
of them
gotta
their
be
favorite
such a
beers
cool
on
feeling.
the mug. Like
Yeah.
we know. Like
Some of them
one,
have nicknames for.
we know one beer Bob is
Oh,
only
yeah.
getting the mountain. Like
Yeah.
we just know it, and
Yeah.
it's just been really great. And they feel like they're part of this place that they've been coming to,
Yeah.
and you know they bring their friends and family. Like we have a group of it's like 4 different families, and 3 of the dads are in the Mug Club. And they come every Sunday. And they came here to have their kid's birthday. And I was like, it's so weird to think it's like a kid's birthday place, but like the families just love coming here. The kids love coming here to, you know, to play. And it's enough space, and they always feel welcome, and they,
Love
you
it.
know.
God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well done by y'all.
Community is so awesome.
Yeah.
Banded.
Yeah.
Breweries take
We're
note.
banding together.
Banding together. All right. I think we're ready for our last question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Oh.
All right. So
Is this a hard one? Is
No.
this a special weird question? Or what?
Yeah.
It's the question that we ask. It's always our last question.
We asked ChatGPT to make an
No, we
impossible
didn't.
math problem for you to
Oh,
solve.
no.
No, we
Get the
didn't.
whiteboard.
So before we started the podcast, we anytime, because Austin's been a server, I've been a server, like the monotony sometimes is a little much. You ask people the same questions, and so Austin loves to ask a bunch of different questions. But before he started asking a bunch of different, which we can ask you after the podcast. We'll ask you some of our favorite questions. But he always would ask people, if you were to give a piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be? So we have a list on our phone from our travels from the past. We live in a van, so we've traveled a lot.
I love that.
Over the
for
past,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, we're coming up on 5 years.
5 years.
Nice.
I got to see pics of the van next.
Yeah, we'll show you some. Well, it's out front. You can go outside.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's a little
Clearly,
dirty.
we love vans.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We love vans too. But we have a list of question or answers from people. Like we can go back, and there's this. I remember the one time that we were at this one place, and we can go find it, and so we've incorporated it into our podcast. So
Yeah.
if you had a piece of advice for your younger self, what would it be? It doesn't have to be. We always say it doesn't have to be beer related, just like or business, just any piece of advice.
Yeah.
Besides just like invest in Google or something.
Oh, right.
Right.
When you were in the 3rd grade.
Right.
Yeah.
Buy a house when you're 5.
Probably just saying like, telling myself that, don't worry about trying to force yourself to do something, like do what you like. And then kind of carried that through even to college. Like I studied things that interested me instead of like paying for school when I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And
Oh,
even now
very
still, I
interesting.
still like,
Very true.
I have a 4-year degree that I've done, not a lot with because I found this industry and fit right in and felt at home. So
Nice.
yeah, just don't force anything.
That's very truthful. I love that.
Yeah.
I fully agree with that. I think the times in my life when I've been in the worst condition is when I've tried to force things. So well said, Marcia.
Thanks.
For myself, I don't know. That's tricky. I think it's a journey. Would be what I would tell myself, not a destination. Like there's never going to be this point in which I feel successful and done doing this.
Oh, I like how you put that.
It's always going to be hard work, and you're always going to have to bring. I would have had to tell myself 10 years ago that you're just going to have to find it within yourself every single day, and those days that you don't, you're going to be worse off. And it's going to make tomorrow harder. So yeah, take the inner passion that I kind of used as fuel to start this place, and just keep feeding it, feeding it.
Yeah.
And trust the people who your intuition tells you to trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's super important for everyone in life, whether you're running a business or just working for someone else, or fixing cars. You gotta have the right people around you.
Yeah.
Very true.
I love it.
I love it.
Thank you all so much. This has been amazing.
Thank
I
you.
want
This
to
has been
hang
a
out
blast.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers, everyone.
We're gonna
Cheers.
interview you next.
Yeah,
I
let's
like
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
We're not
Actually, we'll start
chatty.
right
You're gonna be
now.
on my podcast.
Let's
There
do
you
it.
go.
We'll just flip the computer over.
Nice.
We live